Right, it's 3 o'clock. This is a virtual meeting of the Citizens Advisory Committee to the Board of Mass Transit on Wednesday, August the 10th, 2022. Present and presiding is Chair Lane. Other members, I'm going to take a verbal roll call. Elisa Tamayo? Not present. Maria Flores? Not present. Rebecca Hernandez? Ms. Hernandez, I saw you in the queue.
I'm here. I'm sorry. I had
Okay, great. Present. Aziza Fravi? Aziz, I see you're there. Okay, present. Mr. Lane is present. Sylvia Carrion? Not present. Leah Wood? Ms. Wood, I saw you log in. Are you present? Okay, well, I show her in the queue. Ms. Yanez?
Present.
Thank you. Mr. Steele?
Present here.
Okay, and Lori Ray?
Present.
Okay, good news. We've got full body here. In just a moment.
I don't know if you
It
meant
is
if
3:01.
I missed the roll call, but I'm
Pardon?
here. I'm sorry if
Yes,
I
ma'am.
missed the, but I'm here, present.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, it is 3:02 p.m. All matters listed under the consent agenda will be considered by the committee to be routine and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the committee or persons in the audience request specific items be removed from the consent agenda and moved to the regular agenda for discussion prior to the time the committee votes on the motion to adopt the consent agenda. The only item on the consent agenda is to approve the minutes of the regular committee meeting of July 13th, 2022. I'm going to take a roll call vote. If I can get a motion in a second.
So moved. This is Elisa.
Who was that?
Elisa Tamayo.
Thank you.
I second the motion, Maria Flores.
Thank you, Maria. Right, so Mr. Hernandez, yes or no?
Yes.
Rebecca Hernandez, yes,
Yes.
okay. Aziza Fravi?
Approved.
Mr. Lane?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Carrion is not present. Ms. Wood?
She can't hear the meeting. She's been
I
in the
know
chat.
I was finally able to get sound on, but I'm sorry, I have no idea what I'm agreeing or disagreeing to.
To approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay, yes.
Ms. Yanez?
Yes, approved.
Okay. And we do actually have one alternate extra since Ms. Flores was the last one to log in. Her vote won't count at this point since we do have those two extra alternates. So Mr. Steele, do you approve the minutes from the last meeting?
Yes,
All right, great. And Ms. Ray?
Yes.
Great. All right, with that, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Mr. Lane. The first item for discussion is discussion regarding a presentation by staff on El Paso streetcar service schedule.
Alrighty, thank you, Bree, and thank you for all your work and getting prepared for today's meeting. I see that we have the presentation by Mr. Everett Esparza, the Transit Superintendent of Operations.
Mr. DeKaiser, are you going to give this presentation? I can share my screen.
I am sorry, I was on mute. I was talking and you couldn't hear me. I apologize for that. Anthony DeKaiser here, Assistant Director for Transit Operations for Sun Metro. Everett Esparza is out today, so I'm going to give this portion of the brief.
Thank you.
For the new schedule for effective on September 1st, are you showing the screen?
Are you able to see the screen?
I'm
We've been
not.
having
I
some
cannot.
issues with Teams internally. All right, let me try something else. It's been an IT issue.
Could you possibly put it in chat,
Oh.
the file?
I can certainly add the file to the chat. Yes, sir. First, see if this will share real quick. Are you able to see my screen?
No.
I see it. Streetcar scheduling.
No, we don't see it.
I don't
This
see
is
it.
Maria. I don't see
I
it.
have a black screen.
That's weird. Okay.
Yeah, I just have a black screen as well.
I also have a black screen.
Mr. DeKaiser, do you feel comfortable just explaining it while I try to get this uploaded in the chat?
I can explain it. So for the new Street Star schedule, Wednesday through Saturday, we're going to run from 3 to 10 p.m. The first streetcar will pull out from the MSF, that's downtown by the downtown terminal. We'll pull out of the MSF at 3 p.m. Wednesday through Saturday. And the last car will pull out from Glory Road at 10 p.m. And so I think there was some confusion before about when the last car left. And so for now on, it's going to be leaving Glory Road at 10 p.m. Wednesday through Saturday at 10 p.m. And then from Sunday, we're going to be running on Sunday from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. And again, the first streetcar will pull out of the MSF. They're down by the DTC at 12 p.m. The first car will pull out at 12 p.m. And the last streetcar will pull out of Glory Road at 6 p.m. And then the Winterfest schedule, we're going to start that on November 19th. And it's going to run through 21st of January. And so the hours are going to stay the same as right now. Potentially now, last year we ran on the 19th and the 20th of December all the way to midnight, and the 26th and the 27th of December all the way to midnight. So we haven't confirmed that yet, but that's what we ran last year, and that is up for review right now if we're going to run all the way to midnight on those dates. More to follow on that. Now, the celebration of lights happens on on 19 November. And that happens from 4 p.m. till 12 a.m. there on 19 November, from 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. The non-operational days during the Winterfest schedule will be Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, and New Year's Day. And that's the schedule for Streetcar as we change here, starting on September 1st and taking us through the Winterfest schedule. If there's any questions on that.
Okay, you were saying about the when were you saying now that the streetcars were going to start on would be running? Of course, unfortunately, with the Sunday schedule, the only buses, regular fixed route buses, which are running are the Brios, right?
I don't have the exact
Yes.
Sunday schedule in front of me right now, but
Yeah. But yes, it's right now it's just the Brios. And so streetcar will be added as well.
Okay, yeah, because unfortunately, where I live, I live where I live. I do not live anywhere close by a Brio stop. See, the two closest Brio stops to where I live are either down by Executive Center or up there by Argonaut. And I live just a little ways south of Castellano.
All right,
But
so
now you were
that
saying that.
I sent the presentation to everyone via email. I'm having difficulties with Teams. Like I said, again, it was a known IT issue, and I apologize for the inconvenience.
And we thank you for your attention to that. Bree, do any of the other committee members have other questions for Mr. DeKaiser regarding the streetcar service at this time?
I do, Tom. This is Leah.
Okay, absolutely. Go right ahead.
So I was just wondering, during Winterfest, is the streetcar only available to go from Glory Road to Winterfest, or can people get on and off at other stops?
No, the complete, hold on, I'm trying to get my picture back up, sorry. The complete route for streetcar will be in full effect. So the service that streetcar provides, the entire service for the complete loop will be operational the entire time for Winterfest.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Leah. Are there other questions? Is there any discussion regarding streetcar service that any members of the committee would like to have at this time?
Okay, you were saying that starting in September, the streetcars would be starting on Wednesdays.
Yep, Wednesday to Saturday from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. And then Sunday from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Okay, from 12 to 6 on Sunday?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Steele. Other questions or any other discussion regarding item number 3? Alrighty, thank you, Mr. DeKaiser, for that information.
Yes,
That moves us on to item number 4, discussion regarding a presentation by staff on driver staffing resources. And I see that you're again doing that presentation for us, Mr. DeKaiser.
I am. If you
Any
give
better
me,
luck with this presentation?
okay.
Is this one showing up
No?
for
I
anyone?
can see it.
If you give me a second, I'll try to find it. I'm on a different computer, but I'll try to find it in my email and show it to you. It'll be much easier to present if I find it.
I'll
If I
send
could
it
just
to you right now, sir.
Okay, that'd be great.
So it'll
I
be at
have
the
a
top of your
question.
email.
Yes, ma'am.
Is anyone using the VPN?
I'm in the
I'm on
VPN.
VPN.
Because we were having problems with the municipal court if we were using the VPN to show the tickets. So that could be a potential issue.
You want us to get off the VPN?
No, I mean, I don't know if you can do that. I mean, like, I know with some of the city attorney's items, we have to be logged into the VPN, but it's just there's an issue with Teams and the VPN not working together, just so you know.
Bree,
Okay, I'm
are
gonna
you using
disconnect from the VPN.
Bree, are you using 2
Yes, sir.
screens or 1?
2.
Okay, did you when you bring it up, did you do the swap presentation?
I've tried both. Yeah,
Okay.
but I'll try it again.
Did you
I
send it my
apologize
way,
to everyone
ma'am?
for this. Yes, I sent you the last 2 that we're waiting. All right, I'm gonna try and share screen again. Again, I apologize to everyone for this.
We can see it.
Seems to be working now, except for it's a blank
You can see it?
presentation.
We
Oh,
saw ad went away.
momentarily.
Oh my gosh, that's so weird.
How's that? Can you see it
I
now?
turned off my VPN and now I cannot see it. So I'm gonna turn it back on.
Well, I think we all lost it. It was there for a minute, so
Yeah.
did you swap it?
And
I've
I'm
swapped
from
it
the
several
city
times,
hall.
yeah.
Huh.
Anything there?
No,
Nope.
nothing.
This is absurd.
Okay, anyway, Anthony, walk
I
us through.
apologize.
One second. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes,
Success. Can you see me? No, it doesn't matter.
yes.
We can see you too.
Okay. There we go. So
Yay.
for the fixed route, we have to determine the, excuse me. For the fixed route, we have to determine the amount of drivers needed based upon the routes and extra board. And so for currently for Monday through Friday, there's 86 routes plus the additional 15 PM routes. For Saturday, there's 68 routes per day plus an 11 additional PM routes that you can see there. For current Sunday, there's 18 routes, an additional 12 routes per PM. So we have a total of 221 active operators. If we ran a hypothetical full Sunday service, which historically pre-COVID is about 60% of weekday service, we're talking Monday through Friday, the 86 routes, which would be 51 routes. That would make us have to increase a total of 21 operators and 10 extra board drivers. And so you say, what is it extra board for? We have to have these extra board drivers to cover for those people who call in sick or call in to have a vacation or things like that. And so for fixed route, we'd have to increase 21 operators to cover the routes and 10 operators to cover extra board. And so to answer the question, if we went to a full Sunday service, historically, based on what we did before, 60% of a weekday service would require 21 more operators and 10 extra board drivers. So that's for fixed route. If we went to ask the same question and it covered paratransit, we have to determine the amount of drivers by the amount of scheduled trips. So currently, Monday through Friday, there's an average of 600 trips here. Currently on Saturday, there's an average of 60 trips. And currently on Sunday, there's an average of 20 trips. The total active current, which they're a little short right now of what they would target, is 60, but current there's an active of 55 drivers. A hypothetical full Sunday before COVID, they were doing about 40 trips. And so paratransit or MV is saying they need an increase of 20 drivers and 2 extra board. Now, that seems like a lot to just do an extra 40. Here's the caveat. What paratransit has to do is they have to have drivers to be scheduled for the amount of scheduled trips. And historically, that's 150 scheduled because they have to have the drivers there for what's scheduled. Now, if people cancel their trips, they still have to have enough drivers for the scheduled trips. And so that's what increases the amount of operators they have to have there or scheduled. And that's why they have to have 28 operators to go to the hypothetical full Sunday schedule, even though there's only 20 historically, there's only 40 historically trips performed. And so that's the increase that they would need, 28 operators and 2 for extra board. If we go to Streetcar to answer the same question, we have to determine the amount of hours based upon hours of operation and cars in operation. So currently, which we know that's about to change because we just briefed that, but currently we go Thursday through Saturday, 4 to 11 p.m. That requires 5 drivers for 4 streetcars. Now, when we talk about special events and Winterfest and things like that, that requires 1 to 3 more drivers. And we currently have a total of 8 operators available. So that maxes us out right there. A hypothetical full service, which would include Sundays, but pre-COVID, like if we're talking 7 days a week with 4 streetcars, that'd be 12 hours Monday through Saturday and 10 hours on Sunday. This is a hypothetical situation. We would have to increase another 8 operators to cover that. And so the question is, what if we went to full service? And I can only say, what is full service? A hypothetical situation, which I described in each 3 cases: fixed route, paratransit, and streetcar. That is what we'd need to cover all 3 of those and the increase of drivers. Is there any questions on that before I take this slide presentation down so I can go back and answer by fixed route, paratransit, or streetcar?
So are there any questions from the committee members regarding this information?
So I guess in each of those categories, we're still very much short on drivers, aren't they?
Yeah, in each category we are short on drivers, but for fixed route, we're in a continuous cycle of training drivers, training new drivers or potential drivers. We're in a continuous hiring process. We train them at Sun Metro, and then we get them licensed. And we do all that in-house except for the final step of getting them licensed. But we also take them through all the steps and take them to get them licensed. And as soon as that class is over and we get them licensed, we start the process again. And our HR goes through the process of advertising that we're hiring, bringing them in, testing them, and then we go through the process of training them and getting them licensed with their CDL with the Class P for being able to transport passengers. And as soon as that class is over, we start that again. It's not only us who does that, but Paratransit has their own system that they go through, and they are continuously in a hiring process and class process to get their drivers trained and licensed to increase this number here from 55 up to what they're trying to get to right now, 60. And as we increase and go to Sunday hours and potentially how that is going to expand or potentially may expand to increase those numbers. For streetcar, right now we're at 8 operators now. We intend on doing 1 more class to increase those numbers, to be prepared if those hours expand anymore, to be prepared, not that we are, but be prepared if we have to do that, to meet whatever demands we have in that realm also.
You know, I know one of the things I like to do whenever I see the city of El Paso posting, you know, the job posting through social media is I like to go ahead and share that information on sites and within groups that I know where people are possibly looking for work. And sometimes I get feedback, you know, maybe the pay is low, but one of the things that came to my mind was I really don't know enough about the benefits that the city of El Paso provides employees, where maybe, you know, when I'm reposting, I could add information. You know, this is what I know about City of El Paso benefits and why it'd be a good deal to drive for Sun Metro. I'm happy to do that anytime I see a job, you know, the posting that Sun Metro is hiring drivers. And then also for the paratransit, I don't know much of anything about, you know, how they pay or what their structure is. And I don't think I've ever seen any social media posts from them saying they're hiring for paratransit drivers. And so I'm willing to share all of that information online, but I know I just need to have all of that information sort of accessible for me so that I can share it. So would it be possible for us to get maybe as a group some more information about those benefits, you know, what are typically provided to city employees? so that we could do a better job of trying to maybe market, when we're out there on our social media.
Yes, I'm sure we can provide that information. We can get that together and get that to you through our HR and get that information to you. Yes.
Yeah, that would be super. I would appreciate that. Are there other questions or discussion regarding this item from the committee?
It looks like Ms. Carrion has her hand raised.
Thank you, Ms. Carrion. Go right ahead.
We're not able to hear you if you're speaking, ma'am.
Yes.
Do you want to try typing in chat? Are you ready to move to the next item?
I think then, yeah, we're ready to move to the next item.
Item 5 is discussion regarding receipt of report from staff pertaining to access to paratransit Sunday service. Mr. DeKaiser will present on this also.
Am I sharing the screen right now?
No, sir.
Okay, hold on. How about now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay. Okay, so what was requested for this screen was we were trying to find out how many passengers were not getting the service on Sunday due to the 3/4 rule, which is tied to the fixed route services. And so currently there are 37,635 eligible El Paso citizens to use the lift. Now, the Trapeze software system doesn't have the ability to query how many people are within that 3/4 mile radius of the routes that are offered on Sunday for the fixed route. However, we have been keeping track of all of the eligible El Paso citizens who call in and request service on Sunday. And so out of everybody who called in, we kept track of it by week on Sunday. And you can see on the graph chart there how many people have requested that were not within the 3/4 mile radius, right? And so for 1 week, it was 5, another week was 11, the next week 7, and the next week 6 for July. So that's a total of 29. And so the percent is, less than 0.023 percent. And so that's a pretty low percent there. And so we're going to keep tracking this as we go along to see the percent. And, I think the percent will go down as we continue on, as people understand that this 3/4 mile rule is in place as it's tied to the Sunday fixed route service. And so, as we continue and we continue to adjust the route service, this will continue to adjust as the Sunday route services and the fixed route change according to the demand of what is being utilized by the citizens of El Paso and the fixed route service. But we'll continue to track this and update you with the information as you need or as you request. If there's any questions for this.
I do have Aziz.
Yes, sir.
But you made a statement, sir, what you're basing yourself on, the last portion on average of a customer's calling is not significant enough to see you guys can pursue on anything for increased routes, which I'll give you one example myself. When I know you guys don't have it in my area, why should I waste my time? So many people, they are in that feeling. They know that they're not gonna, you guys not gonna get there. Of course, I'm not gonna waste my time, or they're not gonna waste their time to call to schedule. So I don't think so. That would be a legitimate way of working to increase or not to increase, or making a decision, I can say, for the, for the improving route. I understand you're going to say the drivers, we have a shortage. It's not acceptable when we say it's not feasible for us, because Sun Metro is not here to make money. So that's all. I'm going to rest my case.
Tom, can I ask a question for clarification's sake? I'm a little
Sure.
confused. So are we talking about the number of clients that were denied service that called in because the Sunday service had been reduced for the paratransit, for the lift? Or are we talking about clients that weren't able to get a ride because they lived outside of that 3/4 mile radius that we base the trips on, based on fixed route?
Well, I think what we were looking for as a committee when we put this on the agenda was to get information on the number of paratransit riders who live outside of the 3/4 area radius who would be ineligible to ride the lift on the Sunday service as it stands now.
Okay, so those people that live outside of that 3/4 mile radius, they would be ineligible for Monday through Saturday service as well then, correct?
Well, but the Monday through Saturday service, there's more service available on those
No,
days.
it's incorrect. In other
Yes,
words,
for the
we shouldn't
paratransit,
answer that
it's done
question.
by scheduling. And so I realized that the number of trips are reduced on Sunday because of the reduction on Sunday service, but if they live outside of that 3/4 mile radius, they still would be ineligible to take the lift. So I guess I'm just confused on what we're looking for and why what kind of data we're trying to collect here. Because if they live outside of the radius, then they're not eligible for the lift anyway.
Anyway, exactly.
Monday through Sunday, they're not eligible for the
No,
lift.
no. Only
Right, but we
Sunday.
still
Only
service
Sunday.
them. That's the data I'm collecting. We service them. And so the message to city council is, how much are we providing that's not required by the FTA rulings? Because that's a considerable expense that Sun Metro is paying for. So so what other cities do is they provide service outside of the range, but it's on a different fee schedule.
Yes.
It's not subsidized by the FTA.
Yeah.
And so that's the question it's a policy question for city council. And the question, once we get enough data, is, do you want us to provide this additional service? Yes or no? Do you want us to charge the cost for the actual service? Like when you get an ambulance bill, it's $850, but, or do you want us to subsidize it? Yes or no? And if yes, are you willing to give us, the Sun Metro more money? So right now it's just a data system. We're not trying to limit what we've been doing forever. I don't know why the previous administration was doing it. I don't know if they even, I don't know. I'm not even going to second guess what the decision was or wasn't. So.
Well, it was always my experience, and Aziz, I think you can speak to this probably a lot better than I can, but it was always my experience that if a person lived outside of that 3/4 mile radius, they weren't eligible for paratransit. So I guess I'm just not sure how
Right.
Sun Metro was servicing them if they weren't eligible.
Because we would just say yes and we'd go get them. So, you know, there's no way for the drivers to know if you're 3/4 in or out. The only person who's going to know that is someone sitting in the office looking at the screen at a map. And if the people sitting in the office looking at the screen don't have a map, then the answer's just always been yes. So,
Okay.
so do you know anybody that was denied service? I guess that's my question before I got here. Based on what you just said.
Who are you asking this one?
Anybody.
Yeah, anybody.
I've never heard of us denying.
Sorry,
anybody.
I got knocked out for a
myself.
second. When I taught in Socorro when I had the 18+ program, and we had students in the Lower Valley, especially, or Horizon areas, we wouldn't even register them with Sun Metro Lift because we knew that they weren't going to be eligible. We knew that they would just be denied because they lived out that 3/4 mile out, and we would.
Right. Well, but that's
eligible.
a whole different city. That's
And we
county.
would get told. No.
But anybody in the city limits. So maybe I'll be more specific.
Well, we would we would have students being told, no, they don't qualify.
The DSC is in the city limits, so that's our district service center for Socorro. And we have students that would be working, they lived in the Mount Wood, El Dorado area, and they would pick up a term at the DSC, and they wouldn't, because it was only to Joe Battle, we couldn't get them services.
Right. Okay, well, that's actually good to know. But what we're finding is that we were providing services to people, mostly on the west side, because our buses don't run up like Belvedere to the top of the mountain. And there's several nursing homes up there. And so those, some of the data we're collecting are for people who are requesting to either go or from that location.
Well,
okay, and I guess that's why I was confused, because I was like, wait a minute, we were denied service all of the time. So how is this happening? So thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out, is how it's happening and how frequently.
And
that's why
I've heard that before as well, you know, that within the city that Sun Metro would provide that service even for people who were more than 3/4 of a mile away. And I've heard of those other cities that do charge more than the standard, you know, paratransit fare for those people who don't live within 3/4 of a mile. So I'm familiar with that as well. Are there questions or other comments regarding this information from members of the committee?
Yes, this is Mark. Yeah, I was wondering, does the Lyft service Sunland Park, New Mexico? Like if somebody wanted to go, say, to Western Playland or to the Speaking Rock, not Speaking Rock, the racetrack, would they be able to take the Lyft over there?
No.
Okay.
Well, but see, that's my proposal, is we could offer a separate service at a separate fee where people would be interested in having an option.
You see, that's what we're looking at. Always we're looking at the charging extra fees with the people with the low income. As we know, people who mostly uses a dispatch transit or the fixed routes are in a fixed income. And always we are in the process how to claim to get them to pay us more. And you guys draw the big rock as only on 3/4 of a miles. Now you want to go in with the strategy of charging them extra. So really that's, and the end of it, we're complaining why we don't get many transportation, so we're going to cut down on the routes. So that's the bottom line. The way we're going, we are start fading these public transportations. People did. You guys coming up with a one idea today of why should we increase it, because we're not getting enough applicant for it, or
No, we
people
don't, we
to
don't have
request the
to increase
transportation.
it. We don't have to do it at all. So that's, if y'all want to advise city council to do above and beyond services, that's your decision. All I'm doing is collecting data. I'm not proposing raising a fee. No, sir, I did not say that.
So that's what I'm talking about. We're collecting the data. It's a very unrealistic data. Can't help anything. I don't know how we came up with that kind of data.
Okay. And Forrest has his hand up. Forrest.
Yes, hello. Just for the members of the committee, my name is Forrest Clancy. I'm the Assistant Managing Director for Sun Metro. I was speaking to the previous commenters' comments that there is a transit to the the racetrack and the casino, SCRTD's, South Central Regional Transit District, right, Ellen? So they have bus service that connects with our bus service that services Sunland Park. So there's a mass transit option. Now, when it comes to paratransit, once it enters their jurisdiction, that would be on them, right? So there is a whole other transit agency that now services the city of Sunland Park. We no longer service the city of Sunland Park. They have become on their own. So there is a bit of a delineation between the two groups, and we have an agreement and that we share funding, and so they are actually responsible for that aspect when it enters into their jurisdiction over there on that. But I did want to let you know that there is connecting services. I don't know the exact routes, if that's information that's needed. I'm sure I could obtain when they connect to our terminals, you guys, if anybody's actually looking for that.
Thank you for that feedback. Are there any other discussion regarding item number 5? It does not sound like there's a question.
And with that being said, I was going to say we can move to item 6, discussion regarding a presentation by staff on Sun Metro ID reduced fare card procedures. This will be handled by Mr. Clancy.
All right, so let me take over and share my screen here. Can you guys see it? The Word document?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, I just wanted to talk to, I know that there was some questions about the ID procedures on what it is. And so for the reduced fare, and we wanted to let everyone know that a valid school ID work for the student discount fares. Same thing with the military. The military applies to retired active spouses. So we would take that ID at the bus stop, the bus terminal. We can issue a discounted pass from there, and we don't need any further Sun Metro ID for that discount. There are some cases though where Sun Metro IDs require an application process, and so and we will print out an actual Sun Metro ID, and so that applies for seniors, disabled community, students who do not issue IDs. That could be homeschooling, that could be some vocational schools on the secondary level. And then also mobility instructors and their students are required to get the Sun Metro ID because they all want to do the application process. So, and we posted this for the community. So I won't go into word by word, but basically you will fill out the application. At that point, you can actually turn in your application with all the paper right there at the cashier's booths, and we will go ahead and take it. We're making the IDs at the following locations. We are short-staffed. I apologize, and once we get fully staffed, we'll expand the list. But the current transit centers that will take applications and do the IDs are Burt Williams, the downtown transit center, and also Rotary, Benavides, the Sela Vista Transfer Center. Those are two of our busiest. And so we make sure that we have cashiers on site all the time for those ones. They would be able to take your application. The only thing that if it gets a little bit where you'll have to make an appointment is for the mobility instructors when they have big groups of students. If the student pictures can't be emailed, and sometimes they can't because again, we're dealing with minors, and the parents may not want to transmit, even though part of the application says that we can. But if we can't, we will set up a appointment with you at the transfer center where you could bring in the students and you could go ahead and get their picture IDs taken, and then we will notify you when they're ready for pickup. And I just kind of wanted to be available for any kind of questions you guys had about the process or anything else. It's relatively simple. And again, I said we attached a document to the meeting. So if there's anything else you'd like to know, I'm happy to answer for you.
So I guess I do have questions.
All right.
So students can get their IDs. They can take if it's student with a disability, they can take their ID to their application to either the downtown or the Sela Vista terminals and apply for their IDs right then and there, have their picture taken, and have their ID cards printed.
Yes, ma'am. If everything's in order, it has to be feasible. We have to have all the certification. But if the application's complete, yes, a student sure can.
Is there a limit to the number of students that can do that at one time?
No, I mean, we will have to, there might be a little bit of a wait, right? So we have limited on cashiers. If we have a line of people that are trying to get bus passes to get to their work or whatever it is there, we need to take care of the people trying to buy the passes first, and then we deal with the IDs. If there is a big group, I'm sure we can make an accommodation. I have Jacqueline Maestas is actually my senior accountant. She's on this call. Her group would be the ones handling it. If there is, going to be 30 student IDs and get it done within 30 minutes, that'll take some coordination. This is kind of the best fit for everybody at the moment. How big of a group would you be looking for?
Well, this just contradicts some of the information that I was sent last week that I sent out to teachers that do a lot of mobility training. We were told that students could not get their IDs at the transfer stations, that they could get them, that they had to fill out the applications had to be dropped off, and then pictures had to be taken and emailed individually to someone, and I'm sorry, I don't remember her name off the top of my head. And then Sun Metro would get the applications, match the application to the picture, review everything, and then print the IDs and let the teachers know, which I can tell you is going to be extremely inconvenient for teachers that work with students with disabilities that need to get their IDs.
Right. So this sounds like you're talking more about the mobility instructors, right?
No,
with their
no,
groups.
Sir. No, sir.
No, sir.
I asked specifically for students with disabilities.
Sir, I can
I'm
tell
forwarding
you,
the email now, Mr. Clancy. I'm forwarding you the email that she's referencing.
I can tell you, I have had to face this. My students are currently writing without their IDs because we were told we had a 2-week waiting process. And all of my students came the first day with their applications and their state IDs. And we were told that they could not take their pictures, that I had to email them. And I only have 11 kids.
Well, it's definitely the preferred method of doing it. So that way it's we can have the IDs already ready when they go to pick them up, as opposed to, like I said, waiting in line to go through the process where we have to ask you to stand at the side real quick if there's a big group so we could take care of the passenger.
We planned on it being a long day, so we would have been one student, let the line go down, another student. We planned for that, but that's not what we were allowed to do. And then I said, well, and I was told, well, there's a runner, so they only pick it up once a week. So they only pick it up once a week. So when we get it, we get it. I said, well, can I be the runner? Can I go drop it off somewhere? I drive at the end of the day. And I was told, no. You cannot be the runner. You're not following protocol.
Okay, well, I've been working on this process for the past couple weeks here, refining it, and this is what it is now. I'm sorry for the miscommunication from my staff, apparently, is what I'm looking at my emails.
I believe the
Uh,
person that sent me the information was Leticia Maese. I may have that name wrong, though. I'm horrible with remembering people's names, but that was the information that was sent to me last week. And so I shared that with my transition network so that all of the teachers that need to get IDs for students would have that information. And now what you're telling us completely contradicts the information that I sent out.
So Jackie Maestas is my senior accountant. She's on the call. Jackie, can you clarify some miscommunication that's going on here? Because I thought we went over this pretty clearly earlier today.
Yeah, we did.
And
As far as large groups, we prefer that you actually do it. The process is bring in the applications, we review it. And a lot of this is why we have to review it is because of the issues that I was talking to you about the parents. Some of the parents were complaining that they were not aware that the students were getting IDs or permitted to ride the buses without their approval. So that's why we changed it to where, and this was several years back, to where the applications had to be turned in, they had to be reviewed to make sure that the parents' signatures and the school officials, that everything was legitimate before we issued the IDs. So the process is now for them to drop off the IDs, and it doesn't take 2 weeks. I don't know, the information they gave you is incorrect. The day that you drop them off, we usually, if we don't have a runner going over there, the cashier sends it in the daily mail that the armored car picks up every morning. So we do get the applications within a day, and we have a 72-hour processing time. Now, for students that are small groups, like maybe 3 or 4 or whatever, they're more than welcome to go to the terminals and they could probably process them there. But the large groups, we prefer that the applications are actually sent in.
What's your definition of a large group then? Because as Rosie said, she has 11 students. When I had the community access program for almost 12 years, we would take in groups sometimes as big as 25 and be able to get IDs at the transfer centers without any issue. And in the last, Rosie, 2 years or 3 years is when
Yes.
suddenly there seems to be this huge disconnect with how to get the IDs.
Right.
Yes.
And that, like I tell you, a lot of that was changed due to the parents complaining. And it wasn't so much that, you know, the process time, it was the parents were complaining that they had no idea that the students were going through this process without their permission. So it was changed to where the applications had to come here first. They had to be reviewed to make sure that they were signed not only by the parent, but that they had permission from the school official that they could do this before the IDs were processed.
Well, my guess is those were probably for students under the age of 18, because all of ours
Right.
were 18 plus and were their own legal guardians. So my guess it was probably for elementary teachers. So that's information I can certainly convey to the teachers that would be working with other teachers, the transition specialists that would be working with other teachers at the elementary and middle school level to ensure that the applications are signed by the parent. But it would really be helpful if we could get exact, clear policy guidance. And that's the reason why I asked for this item to be on the agenda today. It would be very helpful if we could get exact, clear guidance on what to do, how to do it, what is considered a large group of students, if it's 10 or more, 5 or more, so that when I'm communicating this information to all of our regional transition specialists, there's no confusion.
Right. And I would consider a large group probably 5 or more, because it does take some time by the time you review the application, and then have to print the IDs and all that. And like Mr. Clancy mentioned, it does tie up the lines for the cashiers, especially at our busy terminals. Now, if we went to a terminal, if we made the appointment at a terminal, or you went to a terminal like Northgate or Five Points where we don't have a lot of traffic, it probably wouldn't be a big issue to take a bigger group there. But our downtown center and our east side are our most busiest terminals.
So it's
Well,
making
and
it
then to that
an option.
aspect, that's where we're right now. So we don't have the Northgate terminal and the other terminals. We have a cashier shortage as well, right? So we only have 2 functioning windows right now with 2 ID makers. And so we've had to change the policy around to adjust to our organization also, you know. And
Okay.
so current staff levels within our organization. So we can go ahead, like I said, I've been working for a couple weeks now to get this document updated. This document is fairly concise on exactly what you have to do to get your IDs. We'll go ahead and make the change. It is missing the definition of a group though. And so we'll go ahead and add that in and we'll let it at 5 will be the group. And for bigger groups, we'll have a section for small groups are welcome to go to the terminal. And for big groups, we're going to go ahead and delineate a different process for that. And it will have to, it'll have to be a drop off the applications. We'll submit it. If we can get the IDs, the pictures from the people emailed to us for the big group, then we will do that. If we can't get that, then we'll schedule an appointment at the terminal to go ahead and get the pictures all taken.
Okay, here's
May
our
I
other,
also suggest adding a timeline then so that there's no confusion, like when Ms. Yanez goes to get her IDs and they tell her, no, it's going to be 2 weeks, and yet you guys are telling us within 72 hours.
But it is specified on there on the new the policy.
Yeah, if you
Okay.
guys read the attachment that's for that we brought up for the group, then I mean it specifies obviously 2 weeks would not be realistic, right? Especially right now. I mean, we understand where we're at with the school starting and anything else.
okay,
I
so
did
what
not get
happens
the
to my,
attachment. I'm sorry. I
Go
just
ahead.
didn't get the attachment and I was wondering if we could get that shared with us or whenever the finalized version of this is, because I also have a few questions.
Okay, well, yeah, I had asked Bree to post it as part of the backup, but I will go ahead and make the adjustment that we said about defining what the group is in it, and I'll make sure it gets out to the committee tomorrow.
Thank you.
I guess the other
Appreciate
concern
it.
I have, sir, and it's just tied to this is my students are currently riding with their disability pass, but they don't have an ID. And there are some rough bus drivers out there who will not allow them on. And so we're scrambling for money to get them on the bus because they're not letting them scan their disability card or asking them for the rest of the fee.
Well, that's something I could work out with my counterpart, Anthony, that was on the call since he oversees the bus drivers to get the message out that there's a delay in the IDs out and to get the word out to his drivers to, you know, that the passes should be honored for the time being.
Okay, because we just today the students were asked for their IDs. So when you have 11 kids getting on the bus and trying to find change for all of them, it becomes, well, time consuming for you all and frustrating for the student. We're trying to teach them their independence and they become flustered because they're like, I no bus. And it's not fair to them either.
Oh yeah, I definitely apologize. I can imagine how frustrating that being, even scary for the student if it seems like something's wrong. So
Yes, if I could piggyback of what Ms. Janice just said, but now for the mentally disabled community, that's an issue that I worked a lot with Emergence Health Network, where over 100 of their clients with disabilities have been denied the reduced fare. And so I just want to see if you could scroll down to the document and show me the criteria for the disability, and if you could walk me through if you have made the changes that City Council requested back in March, I believe. To make
yes,
sure that
ma'am.
people with SMI are included on the reduced fare.
Yeah, so that actually is the last part, right? So we have, can you see it right there? Persons with a disability. I could try and make it bigger. Hold on one second. Is that better for the group?
Yeah.
All right. So really the new language as that is, we had part of this already about the physical disabilities in there, and it says, or having a severe and persistent mental illness which requires crisis resolution or ongoing long-term support and treatment, which is the exact language from the council resolution. It doesn't list out we don't list every person disability that's on there. The resolution listed the specifics on it, but this is the language that we grabbed that covers it.
Yeah, that looks like it covers it. As long as
And then
SMI,
we
Special
have the
Untitled Limits
new,
is on there.
and then
I'm
the
happy with
people
that.
that are allowed to, this is also copied from the resolution. We made sure that it's everybody that can authorized to sign the disability paperwork is listed on there. So these are the people: your nurse practitioner, clinical nurse specialist, physician assistants, licensed chemical dependency counselor, medical doctors, doctors of osteopathy. Sorry, excuse the pronunciation if I butchered it.
No, that's perfect. Is there any way we could get on a future meeting, because I know we're running out of time, but like a presentation on how many of this kinds of reduced fare cards are we issuing, and
So
I don't
there's
know, just
actually
some data on these
that.
cards. What's that?
So we're actually working. So we have a technological problem with the disability. So back then, the senior and disabled was a combined fare, right? As you guys know, we separated it out recently, and the problem being is that on the old buses, there's only one button for senior disabled. It doesn't delineate between. I don't have a way to say if it was senior, if it was disabled. So we have a problem technology wise and breaking this out. So our new buses will have a fare box that will have it broken out, senior, disabled. So that way we can actually enter this type of data, because this is the exact issue that I had with us grouping these two different groups of customers together, is I can't delineate how many senior discounts are going versus how many disabled discounts are going, because they're codified the same. On the fare schedule are the same. They built it into the fare boxes that way the same. Believe even the TVMs are going to require special reprogramming to separate them out on the TVM machines as well. So we are working in that direction, but we're not there. And unfortunately, that is definitely a gap in our data that I identified away as an issue. And so we're taking the steps now to break it out. So if you look at what our fare schedule is for FY22, which will end at the end of August, it has the senior disabled group together. It's the same price, but in FY20, you out the two different groups as the first step. It's still the same price. And then the new, like I said, the fare boxes we ordered for the new buses, we redid the specifications so we have more options on them. And also the new TVM machines will have a different option for senior versus disabled on there. So that will actually gather the data for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Mr.
Thank
Clancy.
you.
Can I just add something real quick? I'm sorry. I know it's after 4 o'clock, but you have on their military ID, but when my students during the summer don't have their school ID, they only have a dependent military ID, they're being denied getting their card because they don't have a school ID and they're not accepting the military ID. So I had to have families go purchase Texas IDs in order for their children to get their passes so that they could continue working over the summer.
Know why a student ID. So here's the thing, right? On the fare schedule, there was already a discount for children under 18, right? I believe it was. If you look at the FY22 fare schedule.
Right, but she's over 18. She's over 18. It was the summer. They wouldn't accept her student ID. So the parent had to go purchase her a Texas ID so that she could get her bus pass to be able to use.
So she's a student at like a vocational school?
Well, she's a student in Socorro Independent School District in our transition program. She had a job over the summer. She needed, she had her lift application, but they wouldn't give her her ID for the lift because she had a military ID. They wouldn't accept her school ID because it was summer.
That's kind of like a one-off of weird occurrence there. Yeah, you
so
should have definitely reached
that's
out to customer service, because we would have taken care of
that
that.
really is, that's a one-off that, we can't make policies for those 1 in 100 type of people. But the reality is if she turned 18, she's going to need that ID anyway. So in the long run, that was probably her best option.
We're a military community. Why can't they access or utilize their military ID? If you're accepting it as a veteran, why can't you use the dependent?
You can't get it for the discount, ma'am. The military ID just states the age, which would be acceptable. I mean, it's for retired, active, and military ID. Right. This is a child of the military member. And so they needed the student ID to access the student discount, right? So that's why the military ID wouldn't work with the expired student Or, and I'm not
It
sure
was
they
the
didn't accept the
disability.
school ID. Huh?
They have a disability. They have a mental disability and they would not accept the student ID. They needed a Texas ID. And we questioned, why can't she use the military ID? And they said it's not our policy to accept military IDs.
I
That's
really
because
don't.
she's an adult now. She's an adult, and previously the parent could sign for them as a child to be eligible, but once they turn 18, that's not, they, you know, we have to have rules, and that's one of the rules that we have.
But one of the rules is also that they can use a student ID. So I think that's the issue if they're, because
But she
our
didn't
students,
have one.
she had a
didn't
school
have a
ID.
She
she
had
So
a
was it
school
expired?
ID. She has a school ID. It was the summer, so they would not accept it. So
That
you're
I
telling
believe
us our
in
students
error.
can't work in
I
the
mean,
summer?
if that's the totality of the circumstance, that was an error. They
Okay,
took
that,
it.
yeah, you should have called us. I
Shouldn't-
thought you said it
shouldn't
was
be
an
able to.
expired. Yeah, I thought you said it was expired. I'm sorry.
Right. If it, I mean, student IDs have calendar years on them too, right?
Well,
So
they're technically, yes. So in essence, so the person accepting or looking at it, it was an expired or recently expired school ID, but it's still pretty current. I mean,
but
they're,
it's
Yeah, but it's
expired, right? So
expired.
but
that's
it's
the
summer.
rules.
Yeah. You know, I
But
tried
in
to
our
fly
transition
on
program,
Southwest
their ID
Airlines
doesn't
and my,
expire until they graduate. They don't issue them a new one every year when they're in our transition program. So it doesn't expire
so
until
you,
they actually graduate.
That might be something you
okay,
might
so
want to
you,
take up
if,
with the schools, that maybe they could give you a special ID that has a longer term for the students, right? I mean,
or something.
we got to have ability for the drivers to look at something relatively quickly, or the cashier, and to keep the process moving. I mean, this is a very special case that you're talking about, where it's even been acknowledged that, yeah, the ID was recently expired, right?
But
So if you say
they're still
that she has,
students. You can
if
still
you
prove
say,
as
like,
us coming, as the teachers coming in, saying we're getting this student's a lift ID. We're supporting them. But that's not recognized, and it feels like a disconnect or a conflict because we're not uniting as a whole. It's like, no, this is
Okay,
it.
let me try it this way. Let me try it this way. We have over 9 million people riding our buses every year. 9 million. And the drivers, they don't know if it's current, or, I mean, if it's recently expired or whatever, you know, they are running, you know, 4:30 in the morning till 11:30 at night. And, you know, some of them are tired and grouchy, whatever. And so we have policies to protect the drivers as well, that they don't have to get into a discussion on what's the fine gray part of this, the gray line. And I understand what you're saying, it's a gray line, but you have to look at it from their perspective as well. And so the reason we make policies is to protect both sides. And that's what happened with this. And like Forrest said, this is a one specific, very particular case that probably won't happen. You know, it might happen again, but it may not happen very often. And so, you know, all we can do is apologize and maybe work with you in the future. If it comes up, feel free to call me, and we'll, you know, we'll see what we can do. But it sounds like this is already in the past as well.
It was a
But we
recent
have to have
occurrence.
policies. Yeah.
It was a recent occurrence, and it was just a line of things that have continued to add. And so it builds frustration on a lot of people, because we're working so many different ins and outs. And it wasn't a driver. We were at a terminal. We were downtown, and they wouldn't accept the ID. So that's kind of where it's frustrating. And it was just the beginning of the summer.
what I was gonna suggest in her case, since she's already over the age of 18 and she has a disability, she should just go for the disabled ID, because that's a bigger discount anyway.
If they're Lyft certified, they ride fixed route for free.
Yeah.
But they have to have that Lyft ID to be able to get that discount on the fixed route.
Yes, she was getting her Lyft ID.
So the Lyft application was already approved?
Yes, she had her code, she had her number. She got down there and they wouldn't take her student ID. We actually had to take her 3 different times. And the mom finally got it on the 4th time after taking her to get her a Texas ID.
Well, I gotta look because you're kind of crossing over. So, because we're looking at you're trying to use a student ID to get a disability discount and not the student fare, right?
She had her.
I mean, I get it that you're so there. Yeah, we'll have to look at that. That's really a very specific case on what it is. Because the medical stuff has a different requirements than the student, right? The student stuff is a fairly easy discount, but like what you're talking about is the medical qualification for Lyft has a whole separate set of requirements.
So I think
you're
that
more than
we need to
welcome
cut
email
this
me.
off.
Yeah, you can email me all the details of the situation and I'll get them over to Forrest and his team so we can get you a response on, you know, where we dropped the ball or what was the miscommunication. But just feel free to email me everything you have on it, you know, dates, times, what terminals they went to, whatever information you might have, and we'll look into it in more depth and get you a better answer.
Okay, well, if there's no other comments or questions, again, thank you guys for your time. I'm sorry we couldn't work through everything quite there, but we will go ahead and update this document to put in the items that we discussed today about, you know, defining what a group is and making sure that the procedures are nice and clear on how we go about it, you know, in this, unfortunately, you know, environment that we live in, where staffing is a hindrance. So.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. Clancy.
Okay, that brings us to the open comment period. We didn't have any individuals sign up to speak during this period. If anyone has any items they'd like to see added to next month's agenda, you can mention them now or feel free to email them to me as always. Otherwise, we'll move ahead with, pardon?
I would like to see, this is Leah Wood. I would like to see a follow-up and review on next month's agenda regarding the ID process, just to make sure that things are working smoothly after it's been clarified and shared again. That way I can get feedback from the community that actually has to go through this process and share that, and then see if there's any adjustments that need to be made.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. I've got that noted here.
And then I believe.
I'd like to second that.
Yeah, and Ms. DeMayo, I think you said something that there was an item you wanted to see on next month's agenda, but I don't remember.
I think the same thing, a follow-up to this item. Maybe next meeting they can walk us through the application process and how many denials they have for reduced fare. I would love to see the number of denials as well.
Okay.
No, that's an item that we track. I will go ahead and look and see if that is an item that we're tracking to give you that data.
If you have it, if not, whatever data you have that you could share, and then maybe moving forward, we could start tracking it. I don't know. Some ideas to throw out there.
Okay, if there's nothing else being requested for next month at this time, remember you can always email or call me with anything that you think of between now and then. We can move on to item 7, which is adjournment. If I can get a motion and a second.
Mark Steele, I motion to adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
Who seconded? I'm sorry, Ms. Hernandez?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, it is 4:14 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all so much.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.